Ambassador Yulri had served the galactic community for 300 cycles. She had seen things that would break the minds of younger beings. She had talked with species that spoke through colors and light. She had made peace between worlds that wanted to destroy each other. In all her long life, she had learned to hide her feelings behind a calm face. But today, standing in the Grand Cartographic Archive on Nexus Station, she could not hide the cold feeling in her stomach. The map covered the entire ceiling of the Great Dome. It showed 12 million star systems. Trade routes glowed like golden rivers between worlds. 400 different species had marked their territories in their own chosen colors. Blue for the Velen Collective, her own people. Green for the merchant guilds. Red for the warrior clans of the Outer Rim. Every color meant a story. Every dot meant a world full of life. It was the most beautiful thing in the known universe. But there was a hole in it. A black, empty space at the edge of the spiral arm where no colors existed. No trade routes. No markers. Just darkness. 47 star systems lived in that darkness. Everyone knew they were there. Energy readings proved it. Communication signals leaked out sometimes, strange and impossible to decode. But the map showed nothing. The map pretended that space did not exist. The door behind Yulri opened with a soft sound. She did not turn around. She knew who it was from the sound of his footsteps. "You are staring at it again," said Taesung. He was her senior aide, a young man with four-fingered hands and scales that changed color with his emotions. Right now they were a nervous gray. "The humans arrived today," Yulri said. Her voice was quiet. 12 of them. They came to the Concord Summit like they always do. They smiled. They were polite. They said nothing important. They never do. No, they never do. Yulri finally turned to look at her aide. "Tell me something, Taesung. In all the time you have worked with me, have you ever seen a human ship that was not a warship?" Taesung opened his mouth to answer. Then he closed it. His scale shifted to a deeper gray as he thought about the question. Seconds passed. Then more seconds. No, he admitted. "I have not. Neither have I their trade vessels." Military design. Their passenger ships? Military design. Their science vessels? Military design. Yulri walked closer to the map, her eyes fixed on the void. "Every other species shows us their civilian ships, their pleasure craft, their family transports. But humans? Every single ship that leaves their space is built for war. Perhaps they are simply a careful people. Perhaps." Yulri did not sound convinced. "Or perhaps they are protecting something. Or protecting us from something." The door opened again. This time, Yulri did turn around. A junior officer stood there, his scales bright yellow with excitement and fear. "Ambassador," the young one said, "the human delegation has requested a private meeting. With you alone." Yulri felt her heart beat faster. In 300 cycles, the humans had never requested a private meeting with anyone. They came to summits. They attended dinners. They signed agreements. But they never, ever sought out individual contact. "When?" she asked. "Now, Ambassador." "They are waiting in conference room 7. Yulri looked at Taesung. His scales had gone completely white with fear. She understood why. In the galactic community, there was an unspoken rule that everyone followed. You did not ask questions about human space. You did not investigate the void. You did not try to learn what lived in that darkness. And you certainly did not meet with humans alone. "I will go," Yulri said. "Ambassador, please. I have wondered about that void for 300 cycles, Taesung. Perhaps it is time I got some answers." She walked out of the archive before her aide could argue further. Conference Room 7 was on the diplomatic ring, a neutral space where species could meet without the complications of different atmospheres or gravity levels. The room adjusted itself to the needs of whoever entered. When Yulri walked in, she found the temperature comfortable and the air easy to breathe. A single human sat at the table. She was female by human standards. Her hair was black with streaks of silver, and her face showed the lines that humans got when they grew older. She wore simple clothes, dark and practical. No decorations, no signs of rank. Just a small pin on her collar that Yulri did not recognize. "Ambassador Yulri," the human said. Her voice was warm, like a fire on a cold night. "Thank you for coming. My name is Yumbai. Please, sit." Yulri sat across from her. The table between them felt very small. "You have been watching the map," Yumbai said. It was not a question. "Yes, you have been asking questions. Quiet questions to people you trust. About our space. About what happened to the Kresh Empire." Yulri's blood went cold. The Kresh Empire. She had only learned that name 2 days ago from an old historian who made her promise never to speak it aloud. How did this human know? "Do not worry," Yumbai said, as if reading her thoughts. "We are not angry. We never punish curiosity. It is one of the things we love most about other species." She smiled, and the smile seemed genuine. "But curiosity can be dangerous, Ambassador. Not because we would hurt you. We would never hurt you. But because some truths are heavy. Very heavy. And once you pick them up, you can never put them down. I have carried heavy truths before. Not like this one." Yumbai leaned forward. Her eyes were dark and deep, like looking into space itself. "Let me ask you something first. Why do you think the galactic community has been at peace for 90 cycles? 400 species, many of them with old hatreds and border disputes. Yet no wars, no invasions, no genocides. Why?" Yulri had thought about this question many times. The Concord Treaty, the peacekeeping fleet, the shared economic interests. Those are reasons, Yumbai agreed. But they are not the reason. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars burned in the eternal darkness. 90 cycles ago, something happened. Every leader of every species in the galaxy had the same dream on the same night. They saw something that made them understand that war was no longer acceptable. What did they see? Yumbai turned back to face her. The warm smile was gone. In its place was something older, something that did not belong on a human face. "Us," she said. "They saw what we really are, and they made a choice." Peace was easier. The lights in the room seemed to dim, though nothing had changed. Yulri felt like she was standing at the edge of a great cliff, looking down into an abyss that had no bottom. "What are you?" she whispered. Yumbai's smile returned, gentle and sad. "That is the question, is it not? The question no one asks. The question the map refuses to answer." She walked to the door. "If you truly want to know, Ambassador, keep looking. We will not stop you. But remember what I said about heavy truths." She left without another word. Yulri sat alone in the conference room for a very long time, watching the stars outside the window and wondering if she had the courage to find out what lived in the void. The research vessel Gentle Inquiry floated in the empty space between star systems, far from any trade routes or patrol paths. This was exactly why historian Donghe had chosen it as his home. Out here, no one watched. No one listened. No one asked why an old scholar needed so much privacy. Donghe had spent 40 years collecting things that were not supposed to exist. Data crystals from dead civilizations. Recordings that official channels had deleted long ago. Testimonies from people who had seen things they were told to forget. His private study was a museum of forbidden knowledge, and tonight, he was about to share some of it. His visitor sat across from him in the dim light. Captain Mireille was a decorated officer of the Exploration Corps, a villain female with hard eyes and a harder reputation. She had mapped more unknown systems than anyone alive. She was not someone who scared easily, but she was scared now. Dong-hee could see it in the way her scales kept shifting between colors, unable to settle on one. "Before I show you anything," Dong-hee said, "I need you to understand the risk. What I am about to share could end both our careers. It could end our lives. There are people who protect these secrets, and they do not show mercy. I know the risk." Mireille's voice was steady, even if her scales were not. "Last cycle, I took my ship to the border of human space. We received a distress signal from inside the void. Standard protocol says to ignore such signals. I chose to respond. You crossed the border? We tried. We got within 1 light year of the boundary line." Her hands tightened on the arms of her chair. "Then my crew started to disappear. Not killed. Not transported away. They just stopped existing. One by one, like candles being blown out. I watched my navigation officer vanish from the seat next to me. There was no sound, no flash of light. She was simply there, and then she was not." Dong-hee nodded slowly. He had heard similar stories before. "I ordered an immediate retreat," Mireille continued. "We barely made it back. 17 crew members gone. No bodies, no remains. Just empty uniforms lying in the positions where they had been standing." She leaned forward. "I need to understand what happened to them. I need to know what lives in that void." "What lives in that void?" Dong-hee repeated softly. He reached for an old data crystal, its surface scratched and worn from age. Everyone asked the question the same way. As if something moved into human space. As if the humans found a monster and decided to keep it as a pet. He inserted the crystal into his player. The truth is much stranger. And much older. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a planet. Blue oceans. Green continents. White clouds. It looked peaceful. Beautiful. Alive. "This is Earth," Dong-hee explained. "The human homeworld. This recording is from 4,000 cycles ago, before humans developed faster than light travel. At this time, they were still a primitive species. They had only just begun to explore their own solar system. They had no weapons that could threaten anyone. They were, by every measure, helpless." Mireille studied the image. They looked so normal. They were normal. Just another young species finding their way in the universe. Dong-hee touched a control, and the recording moved forward. Then the Crash Empire found them. New shapes appeared in the hologram. Ships. Thousands of them. Pouring out of faster-than-light portals around Earth. They were massive vessels. Covered in weapons, designed to inspire terror. Marie recognized the formation. Standard invasion pattern. Overwhelming force meant to crush all resistance before it could begin. The Kresh were conquerors, Dong-hee said. They had built an empire of 47 star systems by destroying anyone who stood in their way. When their scouts found Earth, they saw an easy target. A primitive world full of resources and potential slaves. They sent 2,000 warships to claim it. 2,000 ships against a pre-contact species? Marie's scales went pale. That is not conquest. That is extermination. The Crash did not believe in leaving survivors. Dong-hee's voice was grim. They planned to wipe out most of the human population and keep the rest as workers. Standard Crash procedure. They had done it dozens of times before. The recording showed the Crash fleet moving into position around Earth. The planet below seemed so small compared to the armada surrounding it. So defenseless. What happened next? Dong-hee said. has been erased from every official database in the galaxy. I found this recording in the ruins of an old Kresh outpost, preserved only because everyone who knew about it died before they could destroy it. The hologram changed. Something came out of the darkness. Murray could not describe what she was seeing. It was not a ship. It was not a creature. It was more like a hole in reality itself, a space where the laws of the universe simply stopped working. Light bent around it wrong. The stars behind it seemed to scream. The thing moved toward the Kresh fleet. Murray watched as 2,000 warships opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams that could crack planets. Missiles that could poison entire star systems. Weapons designed by a civilization that had perfected the art of killing. The thing did not slow down. It passed through the fleet like wind through leaves. And as it passed, ships simply stopped existing. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Stopped. One moment they were there, firing their weapons, full of living beings. The next moment, they were gone, and there was only empty space where they had been. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, not a single Kresh ship remained. That was not the end, Dong-He said quietly. The thing did not stop at Earth. It followed the Kresh fleet's trail back to their empire. System by system, world by world, it erased them. Every ship, every station, every colony, every record of their existence. The Kresh Empire, all 47 star systems, was gone within one standard week. Today, most species do not even remember they existed. Murray could not speak. Her scales had gone completely white. The humans, Dong-He continued, never acknowledged any of this. They continued their development as if nothing had happened. 50 cycles later, they emerged onto the galactic stage with smiles on their faces and offers of friendship. They signed trade agreements. They joined diplomatic summits. They acted like a young species, excited to meet their neighbors. But that thing, Murray finally managed. What was it? Where did it come from? That is the question that will keep you awake at night, Captain. Dong-He removed the data crystal and held it up to the light. Some scholars believe the humans created it. Some believe they summoned it. Some believe it is a natural phenomenon they learned to control. He shook his head. But I have studied this for 40 years, and I believe something different. I believe that thing did not come to protect the humans. I believe it came because it is part of them. Connected to them in ways we cannot understand. Part of them? Think about it. The humans show us only military ships. They smile, but they never let anyone close. They set boundaries and expect everyone to respect them without question. Dong-He put the crystal away, handling it like something precious and dangerous. They are not protecting themselves from the galaxy, Captain. They are protecting the galaxy from themselves. Mary sat in silence for a long time, processing what she had seen. Finally, she asked the question that had been burning in her mind since her crew disappeared. Can it be stopped? Can anything stop it? Dong-He looked at her with eyes full of pity and old sadness. No one has ever tried and survived to tell about it. The Kresh had the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. They died in 11 minutes. He leaned back in his chair. My advice, Captain? Stop looking. Accept that some doors should stay closed. Mourn your crew and move on with your life. I cannot do that. I know. Dong-He smiled, but there was no joy in it. None of us can. That is why the humans let us ask questions. They know that eventually we will learn enough to be afraid. And fear, Captain, keeps us peaceful. Fear keeps us alive. Mary left the gentle inquiry an hour later, her mind full of horrors she could never forget. As her ship jumped to faster than light, she looked back at the stars and wondered how many other secrets the universe was hiding. And somewhere in the void, in the space that no map would show, something ancient stirred in its sleep and smiled. Younghia had worked as a cultural liaison on Nexus Station for 12 years. Her job was simple. She watched. She observed. She took notes on how different species interacted with each other, looking for patterns that might help prevent conflicts. It was quiet work. Safe work. The kind of work that let her keep an academic distance from the chaos of galactic politics. Today, that distance shattered completely. The station's public garden was a marvel of engineering. Plants from 100 different worlds grew together under artificial sunlight, creating a space where any species could find something familiar. Water features provided soothing sounds. Benches designed for dozens of different body types lined the paths. It was a place of peace, specifically designed for the children of diplomats and visitors to play while their parents attended meetings. Young Yan watched from the observation deck above, taking notes on a group of young ones from various species. A Velen child with bright blue scales chased a merchant guild youngling around a fountain. Two insectoid children from the outer rim worked together to build something out of fallen leaves. Normal behavior. Healthy interaction. Nothing unusual. Then she noticed the human child. The girl could not have been more than 6 cycles old by human measurements. She had dark hair tied back in a simple style and wore clothes that looked comfortable rather than fancy. She sat alone on a bench, watching the other children play with a quiet expression on her face. Youngya felt her heart beat faster. Human children were rare outside human space. Most human families kept their young ones close to home, away from the curious eyes of the galaxy. To see one here, in a public garden, was extraordinary. The human girl seemed to sense being watched. She looked up at the observation deck, directly at Youngja, and smiled. It was a normal smile, a child's smile. Innocent and warm. Younghai smiled back without thinking. After a moment, the human girl got up from her bench and walked toward the other children. The Velen child noticed her first and stopped running. His scale shifted to curious yellow. He said something that Youngjia could not hear from this distance. The human girl responded. Whatever she said made the Velen child laugh, and soon the other children gathered around her, all of them talking and gesturing in the universal language of young ones who want to play. Youngya relaxed. This was exactly what she hoped to see. Different species finding common ground through their children, building bridges that would last generations. She made a note about human social integration patterns and continued watching. 20 minutes passed. The children invented games together. They ran and hid and laughed. The human girl moved easily among them, somehow knowing exactly how to interact with each species. She was gentle with the insectoid children, whose shells were fragile. She was energetic with the Velen child, who needed constant stimulation. She was patient with a shy creature from the deep ocean worlds, who communicated mainly through color changes. It was beautiful to watch. Youngya almost forgot her academic purpose and simply enjoyed the scene. Then the accident happened. A maintenance drone, one of thousands that kept Nexus Station running, suddenly malfunctioned above the garden. Its stabilizers failed. Its safety systems went offline. It became a heavy piece of metal falling directly toward the plane. Children. Youngya saw it happening and screamed a warning into her communicator. But physics does not wait. The drone was falling too fast. The children were too far from cover. Emergency systems were too slow to respond. In 2 seconds, maybe 3, someone was going to die. The human girl looked up. Young-Ya would remember that moment for the rest of her life. The girl did not run. She did not scream. She did not even seem afraid. She simply looked at the falling drone with an expression of mild annoyance, like someone watching a fly buzz around their food. Then reality broke. The drone stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. Frozen in the air as if time itself had decided to pause. Young Hare could see it hanging there, perfectly still, while the children below looked up in confusion. Then the drone folded. There was no other word for it. The heavy metal machine bent in on itself, collapsing into a smaller and smaller point, until it simply was not there anymore. No explosion, no debris, no trace that it had ever existed. Just empty air where a deadly threat had been. The human girl returned to her game as if nothing had happened. The other children, too young to understand what they had witnessed, followed her lead. Within seconds, they were laughing again, chasing each other around the fountain. Young Ya stood frozen at the observation window, her hands shaking so hard she dropped her note-taking device. Her communicator buzzed. Liaison Young Ya, this is Security Chief Hyan Wu. We detected an anomaly in the garden sector. Is everything okay? Young Ya swallowed hard. I need you to review the garden surveillance. Timestamp current -3 minutes. Reviewing now. A long pause. When Hyan Wu spoke again, his voice was different, scared. I do not understand what I am seeing. Neither do one. The drone just disappeared. Our systems do not show any intervention. No emergency fields activated. No defensive measures triggered. It simply stopped existing. I know. Young Ya, what happened down there? She watched the human girl, who was now teaching the Velen child some kind of clapping game. The girl looked completely normal, completely harmless. Just a child enjoying a sunny day with new friends. I think, Young Hye said slowly, I understand now why we do not ask questions about human space. What do you mean? That child. She saw the drone falling. She looked at it. And then it was gone. Silence on the communicator. Then Hyan Wu asked a question Young Hye had been afraid to ask herself. Are you saying the child did that? A 6-year-old human child just erased a maintenance drone from existence. I am saying I do not know what I am saying. Young Hye watched as the human girl's mother appeared at the garden entrance, calling to her daughter. The girl waved goodbye to her new friends and ran to her mother's arms. A normal scene. A normal family. But I am also saying that I now understand why the map ends at human space, and why everyone knows better than to ask why. She ended the communication and stayed at the window for a long time. Below, the garden returned to its peaceful state. Children played. Plants swayed in the artificial breeze. Water splashed in fountains. Everything looked exactly as it should, but Young Yu knew the truth now. She had seen behind the curtain. The humans were not hiding a weapon or a guardian or a monster. They were the weapon. They were the guardian. They were the monster. All of them. Every single one. Even their children. Especially their children. She thought about the drone, folded into nothing by a little girl who had not even stopped smiling. She thought about the stories she had heard over the years. Rumors about ships that disappeared near human borders. About civilizations that had threatened humans, and then simply stopped existing. She had always thought those were just stories. Now she knew they were memories, warnings, lessons about what happened to anyone who threatened the humans. Hurry. Communicator buzzed again. Young Hye, Central Command is asking about the incident. They want a report. Tell them it was a drone malfunction. Tell them the emergency systems handled it. Tell them everything is fine, but that is not what happened. I know. Young Hye turned away from the window at last. But some things should not be put in reports. Some things should not be written down. Some things should only be whispered in dark rooms between people who trust each other completely. She walked out of the observation deck and never returned to that garden again. But sometimes, late at night, she would look out her window at the stars and think about a little girl with dark hair who had saved a dozen children without even trying. And she would wonder what would happen if the humans ever truly decided to stop being gentle. The answer, she suspected, was something the galaxy would. Admiral J1 had commanded the Concorde's peacekeeping fleet for 60 cycles. He was the most decorated officer in galactic history. He had negotiated truces between species that had been at war for millennia. He had prevented conflicts that would have killed billions. When young officers spoke of honor and duty, they spoke of him. Now he lay dying in a private medical suite, his body failing despite the best technology the galaxy could offer. Ambassador Yulri stood at the door, unsure if she should enter. She had received his message 3 hours ago. Just 4 words: "Come, before it ends." She had known J1 for 200 cycles. They had worked together, argued together, sometimes even laughed together. But they had never been close. The Admiral kept everyone at a distance. It was, she had always thought, simply his nature. Now she wondered if it was something else. "Come in, Yulri." His voice was weak, but still carried the authority of a lifetime of command. "I do not have much time, and there are things I must say." She entered and sat in the chair beside his bed. Medical monitors beeped softly, showing numbers that told a sad story. His organs were failing. His cells were dying. Whatever had kept him alive for so long was finally giving up. "The doctors say I have perhaps 6 hours," J1 said. "Maybe less. I wanted to use them well. I am honored that you asked for me. I asked for you because you are the only one still asking questions." His eyes, still sharp despite his condition, fixed on hers. About the humans. About the void. About what really happened 90 cycles ago. Laurie felt her scales shift to surprised white. "How do you know about my questions?" "Because I have been watching you, Yulri. Watching and waiting. Hoping someone would be brave enough to seek the truth." He coughed, a terrible wet sound. "I was going to take the secret to my grave. But you deserve to know. The galaxy deserves to know, even if no one will ever believe you." "Know what?" J1 was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, more human, if such a thing was possible. 90 cycles ago, I was a young officer on a border patrol vessel. The Starlight Seeker, she was called. Beautiful ship. Good crew. We patrolled the edges of known space, looking for trouble. He smiled at the memory. One day, we received a distress signal. It came from inside the void. From human space. You answered it? My captain did. Against every protocol. Against every warning. She said that no one who called for help should be ignored, no matter where they were. J1's eyes grew distant. So we crossed the border. Yulri leaned forward. In all her research, she had never found anyone who admitted to crossing into human space. Most stories ended in disappearance. This was the first time she had met someone who claimed to have survived. What happened? At first, nothing. We flew through normal space, stars, planets, asteroid fields. It looked like any other region of the galaxy. He paused. Then we found the source of the distress signal. A human colony ship, damaged and drifting. We docked with them and offered assistance. The humans let you board? They welcomed us. Treated us like honored guests. J1 shook his head slowly. They were so kind, Yulri. So genuinely happy to meet us. They fed us. Gave us medicine for crew members who had been injured in the docking. Showed us around their ship. Their children asked questions about our scales and our eyes. They were curious, innocent, good. But something happened. Yes. J1 lifted his hand, and for just a moment, Yulri saw it flicker. Phase. As if it existed in 2 places at once. Then it was solid again. While we were helping them repair their ship, something came to look at us. Something that lived in the space between moments. Something old. What was it? I do not know. I do not think even the humans know, Not really. It did not have a form I could describe. It was more like a feeling, a presence, an awareness that suddenly noticed we were there. He closed his eyes. It spoke to me, not in words, in sensations, impressions, emotions pressed directly into my mind. Yulri waited, hardly breathing. It showed me what it was, or rather what it was part of. Every human who has ever lived, every human who will ever live, they are all connected to this thing. It wraps around their souls like a mother wraps around her children. It watches over them, protects them, loves them. J1 opened his eyes, and they were wet with tears. And it showed me what happens to anyone who tries to harm them. The creche. Yes, the creche. But not just them. The thing showed me its memories. Dozens of species across millions of years. Every single one that ever tried to hurt humanity. All gone now. Erased so completely that even their names have been forgotten. He took a shaky breath. It was not angry when it did these things. It was not cruel. It simply removed them, the way you might remove a splinter from your finger. Gently, efficiently, without a second thought. Why did it let you leave? Because we came to help. It could see our intentions. It could see into our hearts and know that we meant no harm. J1's voice grew weaker. Before we left, it gave me a message. A message for all the leaders of the galaxy. It said, "My children are gentle. They are curious and good. They would never harm you. Leave them in peace, and you may live beside them forever. But if you cross their borders with malice in your hearts, I will know. And I will respond." That was the dream, Yulri whispered. The dream all the leaders had 90 cycles ago. Yes, I delivered that message to every government in the galaxy. I showed them what I had seen. I made them understand. J1 smiled bitterly. The Concord Treaty was signed within a single cycle. The peacekeeping fleet was established. Wars stopped. Conflicts ended. Not because we wanted peace, Yulri. Because we were terrified of the alternative. Does anyone else know this? A few, the highest leaders of each species. It is the greatest secret in the galaxy, passed down from one generation to the next. He coughed again, weaker this time. I am telling you because the secret needs a new keeper. Someone who will make sure the galaxy never forgets why peace matters. Why the void must remain untouched. Why me? Because you care about truth. Because you will not let fear stop you from asking questions. And because he reached out and took her hand. His touch was cold. Because the thing that guards human space spoke to me again, just before you arrived. It knows you have been searching. It approves. It thinks you are worthy. Yulri did not know what to say. Be careful, Yulri. The truth about humanity is not simple. They are not villains hiding a monster. They are not innocents protected by a god. They are something else entirely. Something that does not fit into our understanding of the universe. J1's grip tightened. But whatever they are, they have chosen to be kind. They have chosen to smile and trade and make friends. That choice matters. Remember that when you finally learn the whole truth. What is the whole truth? But the Admiral's eyes had closed. His grip loosened. The monitors began to wail their warning songs. Yulri stayed by his side until the end, holding the hand of a hero who had carried an impossible secret for 90 cycles. When the doctors came to take his body, she walked out of the medical suite and stood before a window, looking at the stars, somewhere out there in a void that no map would show. Something ancient watched over its children and waited to see what the galaxy would do next. Uri made a silent promise to the dying admiral. She would find the truth, all of it, no matter how heavy it turned out to be, and she would make sure the galaxy never forgot. One standard month had passed since Admiral J1's death. Ambassador Yulri had spent that time gathering every piece of information she could find. She had spoken with the historian Dong He. She had reviewed Young Ya's classified report about the garden incident. She had accessed files that should have been impossible to find. Now she stood once again in the Grand Cartographic Archive, staring at the void on the map, and she was not alone. The human woman, Yunbai, stood beside her. They had not spoken since their first meeting in Conference Room 7. But tonight, Yunbai had sent a simple message. You have learned enough. It is time to hear the rest. The archive was empty at this hour. The great dome stretched above them, filled with the light of 12 million stars. The void seemed darker than ever, a hole in the fabric of existence itself. You have been busy, Yunbai said. Her voice echoed slightly in the empty space. We watched you track down old records, interview frightened witnesses, put together pieces of a puzzle that most people are too scared to even acknowledge exists. I made a promise to a dying friend. Yu-Ri did not look at the human. She kept her eyes on the void. He told me to find the truth. All of it. Then you are ready to hear it. Yunbai walked closer to the map, reaching up as if she could touch the stars. Ask your questions, Ambassador. I will answer them honestly. The entity that protects human space. The thing that destroyed the crush. The presence that spoke to Admiral J1. Yulri finally turned to face her. What is it? Yunbai smiled. It was the same smile she had worn in their first meeting, warm and sad at the same time. There is no entity. There is no cosmic guardian. There is no ancient horror lurking at our borders, waiting to destroy anyone who threatens us. But I have seen evidence. Recordings, testimonies, the child in the garden, all real. Everything you learned is true. Yunbai's dark eyes seemed to hold entire galaxies within them. But you have misunderstood what you were seeing. The thing that protects us does not exist outside of us. It does not watch over us like a parent watching over children. She placed her hand over her heart. It is us. It has always been us. Ulri felt the ground shift beneath her feet, though nothing had moved. Humans carry something inside ourselves, Yunbai continued. Something that has been with us since before we had language. Before we had tools. Before we could even stand upright and look at the sky. We do not know what it is. Our scientists have studied it for generations. Our philosophers have written millions of books about it. Our religious leaders have built entire faiths around it. She shook her head. But the truth is simple. We are not a young species that accidentally stumbled into space. We are something else. Something that decided, long ago, to pretend to be normal. Pretend? Yes, pretend. Yunbai walked through the holographic stars, light playing across her face. Do you know what humans call the feeling when someone they love is in danger? We call it fear. But it is not really fear. It is something deeper. Something that reaches down into the core of what we are and wakes it up. She stopped in the center of the void on the map, surrounded by darkness. When a human mother sees her child threatened, something happens. Something that, for most humans, stays beneath the surface. But in that moment, she is not just flesh and blood anymore. She is a force of nature. She is a storm. She is a promise that whatever threatens her child will cease to exist. The child in the garden, Yulri whispered. She did not even seem to try. She did not try. That is the point. Yunbai's voice grew softer. Most humans never learn what they really are. They live their entire lives thinking they are ordinary. They love, they work, they raise families, they grow old and die, never knowing the truth. And we keep it that way on purpose. Why? Because we do not want to be gods, Ambassador. Yunbai turned to face her, and for just a moment, Yulri saw something behind the human's eyes. Something vast. Something that had existed before stars and would exist after they all burned out. We want to drink terrible coffee on space stations. We want to argue about politics and sports and which restaurant has the best food. We want to make friends with strange aliens and learn about their cultures and invite them to dinner parties. She smiled again, and the vastness faded, leaving only a middle-aged woman with silver-streaked hair. We want to be ordinary, so we pretend. Every single day, we pretend. But the crash came to kill us. All of us, every man, woman, and child on Earth. Yunbai's expression hardened. In that moment, 8 billion humans felt the same fear at the same time. 8 billion souls reached down into that place inside themselves and found the same answer. And the pretense stopped, just for a moment, just long enough. Laurie remembered the recording Dong He had shown her, the thing that had come out of the darkness, the reality-breaking presence that had erased 2,000 warships in 11 minutes. "That was you," she said. "All of you. Together. Yes and no." Yunbai sighed. It is hard to explain in words. When we are threatened, really threatened, we do not summon power. We do not transform into monsters. We simply stop pretending that we are limited by physics and biology and the normal rules of the universe. We remember what we actually are. And reality adjusts. Why are you telling me this? Why let anyone know? Because the pretense only works if everyone believes it. Yunbai walked back toward the ambassador, her footsteps silent on the metal floor. We need the galaxy to see us as a young, friendly species that happens to have very good luck and very dangerous borders. We need you to trade with us and talk to us and treat us like equals. Because if you ever started treating us like gods, if you ever started worshiping us or hating us or trying to control us. She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. The void exists to protect the galaxy, Yulri said slowly, understanding finally dawning. Not to keep others out of human space, to keep us in. Yunbai nodded. We have rules. Strict rules that every human learns from childhood. Never leave human space in anything other than a military vessel. Never let your emotions control you around other species. Never, ever stop pretending. She looked up at the map, at the void that contained her people. Because if we ever truly woke up, all of us, all at once, the galaxy would not need maps anymore. There would be nothing left to chart. Ulrich stood in silence, processing everything she had heard. It was too much, too vast, too terrifying. And yet, looking at the human woman before her, she felt something unexpected. She felt hope. You chose this, she said. You could be anything. You could rule the galaxy. You could reshape reality itself. But you chose to be kind. We chose to be friends. Yunbai reached out and took Yulri's hands in hers. The human skin was warm. That is all we have ever wanted, Ambassador. Friends who see us for what we pretend to be and love us anyway. Friends who share our wonder at the universe and help us explore it. Friends who remind us every single day why it is worth pretending to be ordinary. And if someone threatens your friends? Yunbai's smile turned cold for just a moment. Just long enough for Yulri to see the ancient thing behind her eyes again. Then we stopped pretending just long enough to deal with the threat, she said. And then we go back to being friendly neighbors who make bad jokes and burn their cooking and forget important appointments. The coldness vanished, replaced by genuine warmth. That is the truth at the center of the void, Ambassador. Humans are not monsters. We are not gods. We are simply people who want to be happy and want everyone else to be happy too. And we are willing to do absolutely anything to protect that happiness. She released Yulri's hands and began walking toward the exit. Wait, Yori called after her. What do I do with this knowledge? Who do I tell? Yumbai stopped at the door and looked back over her shoulder. Tell whoever you want. No one will believe you. They will think you have gone mad from spending too much time staring at the void. She laughed softly. But you will know the truth. And when you see humans at the next summit, smiling and polite and saying nothing important, you will understand why. And maybe, just maybe, you will smile back. She left without another word. Ambassador Yori stood alone in the Grand Cartographic Archive, surrounded by 12 million stars and the darkness where humanity lived. She looked at the void for a long time, thinking about everything she had learned. Then, slowly, she began to smile. The humans were terrifying. They were impossible. They were the most dangerous thing the galaxy had ever produced. But they had chosen to be kind, and that, Yori decided, was the most human thing of all. She walked out of the archive and went to find the human delegation. She had a sudden urge to invite them to dinner and hear their terrible jokes and watch them burn their cooking. After all, what were friends for?